cells or neurons that fire together, wire together. In other words, if you think a certain thought, you form those connections between the brain cells to emphasize that thought. So there's any number of ways of looking at what is going on outside of us. And, you know, the What the Bleep movies and things really showed that we create our own reality to a far greater extent than we thought in the past. And how you look at and how you emote about things really will affect not just your health, but the quality of your life to a very large extent.
I thought it was fascinating that he gives his consciousness, his mind, problems to solve during sleep.
Ray has a very fascinating form. He has invented. He's one of the foremost inventors. He invented the flatbed scanner. He invented speech recognition for computers. He invented the reading machine for the blind. He invented the keyboard that plays all the different instruments. He's been a very prolific inventor throughout his life. And he says what he'll typically do when he is faced with a problem that he's having a hard time solving is right when he's getting ready to go to sleep, he will fix that in his mind. And then he finds that doing so, he will oftentimes wake up in the morning with a solution to that problem. So he refers to that as lucid dreaming, and it's a fascinating technique that he discusses in our books.
Very, very interesting. You're a huge proponent of omega-3, coenzyme Q10, grapeseed extract, ALA, acetyl L-carnitine, and acetyl glutathione, and others that you've mentioned. And the most interesting of all was the fact that so many of us take our multivitamin for granted. And you and Ray would not allow us to do that anymore in the book. And I wanted you to talk about the multivitamin, why it should be brought back as one of the things we absolutely do, aside from the fish oils, coenzyme Q10, and the other things you mentioned.
Well, the three supplements that I think everybody should take now, virtually everybody, is the combination of a good multiple vitamin and mineral formula. And there's a biochemist, he's in his 80s now, out in San Francisco, Bruce Ames, and he has worked on micronutrients. And Dr. Ames has showed how critical many of the processes in the body are dependent on vitamins and minerals. And yet 90% of Americans, and we have more nutrition and access to more good food than anywhere in the world, yet 90% of us are deficient in one or more critically important vitamins or minerals. So what's important is to take a good multiple vitamin mineral formula to make sure that we don't have any deficiencies. So all of our enzyme systems work optimally. So that we begin with a good multiple vitamin mineral. Then secondly, we had mentioned that inflammation is at the root cause of all of the major killers, cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes, etc. Yet fish oil is highly protective and lowers inflammation. So I think that virtually everybody would do well to take a fish oil supplement as well. And then finally, even mainstream physicians are coming to the realization that almost everybody does not have enough vitamin D in their bodies. We used to think just 5-10 years ago that vitamin D was good for bone health. We don't get vitamin D in our diets. We get vitamin D from the sun, and we've been told by the dermatologists to stay out of the sun. It'll create skin cancer and skin aging, so everybody puts their sunscreen on. We've reduced our vitamin D through the sun, and as a result, everybody's walking around with low vitamin D levels. Yet vitamin D is protective against heart disease, cancer, all these big killers as well. Turns out vitamin D is critical to good health. So the vitamin D that's contained in multiple vitamins is typically 400 units or 800 units, yet most people need thousands of units. It's not uncommon for people to need 4,000 or 5,000 units a day or more for long periods of time in order to get optimal levels. And vitamin D is the one nutrient that we actually measure. We do a blood test for vitamin D, and we're looking for a level in our bloodstream between 50 and 80.
It's very inexpensive to take that blood test.
Oh, yeah, the blood test is expensive, and vitamin D is one of the least expensive nutrients there is.
Exactly. Are you looking forward to the genome and telomerase test, and do you prescribe that?
Yeah, there is a test now that you're referring to the telomeres, and telomeres are the little end caps on the end of our chromosomes. And as we age, those little end caps at the end of our chromosomes shorten. And those end caps, they're like the little plastic caps on the end of shoelaces. They keep the shoelace from unraveling, and the telomeres keep the DNA, the double-stranded DNA, from unraveling. And when the telomeres get too short, the DNA unravels and the cell dies. And when our telomeres in all of our cells get too short, then we die. So it's critical that we maintain our telomere length. We know that certain lifestyle practices, for instance, stress reduction, aerobic exercise, drinking green tea, improves telomere length. There are also some supplements, one based on astragalus, that improves telomere length, makes the telomeres longer. We have a test now that will actually measure your telomere length, and what it does is it gives you a telomere age. So if you're 40 years of age, you'll find out if you have the telomere length of a 25-year-old or if you have the telomere length of a 65-year-old, or if you have a telomere length of a 40-year-old. But you can see what your telomere length is, and if it's shorter than you would like, then you'll want to be more aggressive and possibly take some of these products that increase telomere length. And if it's long, then you know you're on the right track.
Fascinating. Isn't it fascinating?
It's a fascinating test.
You yourself use an indoor air filter. You filter your water. You have house plants in your home. You suggest a radon mitigation system. Talk a little bit about those. Well,
another problem that we're dealing with is essentially the disease of civilization. One of the costs that we have that's been associated with civilization, with having electricity, is, we've been burning coal, and coal has released all of this mercury into the atmosphere, which has then gotten deposited into the oceans, which is then uptaken by the fish, which we then get into our bodies. Most everyone has mercury toxicity, and we have lead poisoning from the solder that they put in our water pipes. When we shower, we get lead into our bodies, and our air is polluted from all the vehicles, and the list goes on and on. We have water pollution, air pollution, food pollution, and detoxification is critical. So, house plants, they're one of the best ways of detoxing the air. Putting a water filter, you can get a simple Brita filter on your faucet, is a simple way of removing over 90% of the lead and the other contaminants found in drinking water. Getting an air filter for your house, in addition, can be beneficial. But just getting a Brita air filter, which you can get for $30 or $40, and some house plants, which will beautify your house and are inexpensive, can do a major job. Then if you want to, spend $3,000 and get a far-infrared sauna, there are plenty of other things you can do, but you don't need to spend a fortune to do some very effective detoxification, and I think all of us need to detox ourselves.
You also mentioned not cooking with aluminum cookware, which most of us cook with, interestingly enough.
Yeah, I think that aluminum cookware is a bad idea. Using aluminum foil is a bad idea. Using plastic to store our food is a bad idea, because when you wrap your food in some type of plastic wrap, some of that plastic comes off into the food. If you microwave food in plastic, that is an absolute disaster. And, when you cook food in aluminum cookware, aluminum has been implicated as one of the causative factors in the development of Alzheimer's dementia. So I think that with this epidemic of Alzheimer's that we're looking at, we're living longer than ever. I think the use of non-aluminum cookware makes a lot of sense, and avoiding, using the glass for storage and glass for cooking as well, and stainless steel makes a lot of sense.
You were very detailed about so many things that I've covered on the show. One thing I wanted to ask you was about green tea, because you're a big proponent of green tea and green tea extract, both, correct?
That is true. I quit drinking coffee about 6 or 7 years ago, not because there aren't health benefits of coffee. There are. Rather, I just wanted to be able to drink more green tea, because I think there are more health benefits with green tea. Coffee's been found to actually reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease and improve concentration and possibly help prevent Parkinson's. So there are advantages to drinking 1 or 2 cups of coffee a day. But with green tea, the evidence suggests that it reduces risks of cancer and heart disease. the more you drink, the better, so that there are certain benefits with 1 or 2 cups a day and more benefits with 4 to 6 cups a day. So I just went to drinking green tea generally.